and welcome back. I'm Mindy, and today I have a friend over, Eva.
Yes, hi, hello Mindy, and hello everyone else.
Or should I have said Eve? I never know exactly.
That's a struggle that I have constantly. It's actually Ieva, but a lot of people have a lot of difficulties pronouncing it, so just say Eve.
Eve, thank you for being today here. And I wanted to invite you because an article you wrote for Medium that I'm going to write here on the description box. So it's about graying at 25, which is what's happening to you, and how you rebuild your identity beyond the physical appearances. It for me was just like, whoa, when I saw, because Eve posted on Instagram something like, I thought it was very, very nice. I was like, I need to have her on my channel.
So cute. And I was like, wow, like I'm doing the right thing. I'm encouraging people to talk about that and to be open about like struggles, and especially that's not something that you see on social media anyhow ever.
Yeah.
So and I was a part of the problem, and I'm still am. So
yeah, no, but it's great when you open up. You're encouraging others to just embrace where they are. As I said, like, you don't need to be just done with the problem or with the situation. Sharing where you are at is also important. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for inviting.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and about the situation that you are at. So 25 and getting lots of gray hair.
Oh damn! Like, whew, it sounds like a lot. So yeah, I'm Ieva from Lithuania. I'm 25, as now you all know. my age has never been mentioned so many times ever. Yeah, to start off, I'm super thankful that I can be here and to just share my thoughts, and we can exchange perspectives. I think that's also always very helpful. And yeah, so most and foremost, I'm not really used to being interviewed because my full-time job is to be a user researcher and insights manager. So I interview people all the time, and it's my comfort zone. So me sitting now on like another side of the table is quite like unfamiliar, but I'm getting back. I'm getting used to that.
You're doing it great.
Thank you. So yeah, so how it started, like basically I started getting a lot of grace when I was 24. So that was straight like right before Corona. I was in Romania with my friends and I washed my hair. I was always like the youngest anywhere I'd go to. I was always the youngest. I was always like the baby. And I washed my hair, brushed my hair, and I was like, oh, like, wait, is it like the lighting is bad, or like what's happening with this like three hairs that I don't look as like dark as they should? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like dark hair, gray hair. And it's interesting why I was so shocked and why like I panicked. Because like now that I'm talking to other people who are facing the same problems, everyone is on their own journeys, and I don't want to like dramatize it for no reason, but I'm just sharing my own very authentic journey that I was on, like that I've been on, and I still am on that. And so that was quite difficult. The first days, the first weeks, I was like, it was always kind of like on top of my mind. I would always like wash my hair and look if there are like any grays. And at some point, like I really started seeing like more and more, to a certain extent that I needed to spray, like I needed to do something with it because it was too visual. It was too obvious. Every time I'd go out, like you couldn't hide it anymore. And that was something that was, to me, tragic in a way, because I was very much, and did a great job in defining myself as someone who's very, who's pretty, who is very nice to people, and just all these external factors. Like this is how I define myself. Always kind of like externally, but I didn't really have like internal dialogue with myself. Like, who am I? Like, who am I without like my natural hazelnut hair? Who am I without certain skin? All that kind of stuff. And then it really hit me. I started thinking more and more about just my own self-worth and my own like understanding of myself as well. And this is where I got challenged as well, that I probably didn't love myself enough to a degree that I could accept that. So I was in total denial that I was getting gray hair. I wouldn't tell it to anyone. at some point I started mentioning it to my mom, and then my mom was like, oh, like, oh, you're bluffing, like it can't be true, like you're so young. It's like, no, not a chance. And she herself doesn't have any grades up until now. So for me it was like, I was like, wait, what's happening with me? Because like my mom doesn't believe me. I started telling my friends, and they're like, oh, it's not a biggie, it's fine, like I'm getting gray hair too. And I was like, but you don't understand, like it's a lot of gray hair.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult to just open up to anyone, because if I wasn't looking for like advice or a for anyone to kind of like soothe me or to tell me that everything is going to be all right. I just wanted to just accept that it's just happening, and probably then it would have been easier for me to accept that. But this is the work that I needed to do on my own, which I didn't. So then I went out there and I just looked for people who would tell me that yes, you are
It's
getting,
okay.
it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
So it was not okay in my own kind of like internal world, for sure. Like it was quite like a chaos and a storm.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you
Mm.
think or did you consider to color your hair in that moment?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The first thing that I did, I just went through all possible YouTube or like basically all channels possible, like what to do when you're getting gray hair. I felt very lonely. I felt that I was the only one who'd be getting gray hair at the age of 25, or like in her 20s in general. So I started Googling, and all you could see is that home remedies, how can you cure, how can you heal, how can reverse your gray hair to your back to your natural, and always like all that stuff, like how to act on it to reverse it, like how to act on it to prevent it from happening. And I was like, but this is happening, like it's not a joke, and I can reverse it with like using olive oil for that every night. And I tried all possible things. I started like eating healthier, and then I also started like doing way more sports. I was like, oh, like maybe I'm not eating enough, like maybe I'm like vitamin deficient, all that kind of things that like they're going through my head. And I didn't take the time to just sit down and to realize, oh, wait, this is happening to me. First and foremost, before I do anything, I need to accept that this is happening. And it was so hard for me to accept that. It was so difficult. So then I got this like spray that I'm still using, which you can spray on your hair. And I have like just grays like here everywhere. So you're not gonna see it today because I sprayed all over them yesterday. At some point, I was looking at myself in the mirror and I was like, damn, I need to start talking about that. I need to start talking about that, because if I hold it everything to myself, it's just not going to help. It's not going to get better. And as I also was mentioning before about like media, I also couldn't find the ways to connect with that too. I couldn't find the ways how to feel better about the station that I was at, and I'm still at, am at. On YouTube, there's basically zero videos about premature gray hairing. It's only maybe like women in like their 40s who are talking about that, which I can now like can relate to so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So much.
That's
So
why I wanted to have you here as well, because I also Googled it, try to find it, and I didn't find much.
how
I
is
mean,
it?
like, yeah, I didn't find much videos of women in their 20s talking about premature graying.
Mhm.
So that's why I thought this is something that some people might want to
Oh,
hear.
I really hope that it could be so beneficial for some women who are going through that. Not only women, also men.
Yeah.
So when I posted also the article, I posted it on Facebook and on Instagram and also like on Medium. Um, and there are also men coming to me and coming back to me and they're saying, hey, I'm going through the same thing. But how, and everyone's like it's a new thing for everyone, and it's not a taboo. It's something that is happening, that is maybe happening now more often than before, due to our like stress, all the kind of stuff that is happening now in the world. But I was very surprised that actually so many people are willing to open up once you open up yourself.
Yeah.
So then I really found the power of like being vulnerable.
Yeah, it's amazing. That's great.
Mm.
Um, I have a question for you. So when you started to see like, okay, I got some few hairs, and then in I guess in a few weeks or months, then they multiplied quite fast.
Mm.
And then you start putting the remedies or Googling and checking things, and nothing happened. What was the biggest? What was your thought? What did you think in that moment? What was your biggest fear in that moment?
Um, oh, it's still so sensitive, I can cry. And I was like, it's just the color, it's just the color of your hair. But probably my biggest fear was the fear of dying. And this is the moment that I broke. I was like, my boyfriend was like cooking or like preparing breakfast, and I'm looking myself in the mirror and I was like, maybe I'm dying, like maybe I'm actually dying. And I looked at my boyfriend Maxwell and I was like, maybe I'm dying, like I don't know, I'm really freaking out. And he was trying to like calm me down, and then I kind of like sat down with myself with my own thoughts, and I just took time for myself to understand, because it's not the fear of dying, it's the fear of not living. Because what I realized is that actually I don't fear to die. I fear not to live. And I kind of felt that I haven't been living. I haven't, when we talked about purpose before the recording, I was not living my purpose. And you always think you have time. And then you get some visual clues that is like, yes, you have time, but the time is running. The time is running every single day. And if you choose not to live for purpose for now 25 years, when are you going to do that? And so to me, it was probably, this was like the thing I was like, oh my gosh, like I always think that I'm just going to push it. I'll do tomorrow. I'll do tomorrow. I'll find it out tomorrow. Um, Always kind of like procrastinating your own life.
Yeah.
And this is what shook me the most, probably.
This, what you said now, that you were not living in purpose, doesn't mean that you weren't doing anything. Actually, contrarily, you were doing a lot of things,
Hmm.
but maybe you were not in line with your truth.
Oh, very, very good point. I think you said it right. And I think, again, we're very similar in that way that, yes, I was overdoing things that didn't add any value to my own soul and to like my mind, to my body. It didn't feel right. So I was doing tons of things. I was meeting tons of people, talking about tons of things, tons of ideas, and that were never really came to reality. And I was trying to like that, like just look for validation just everywhere I go to. So in my job, and also trying to become a cycling coach as well, just like to just validate myself that I'm worth it. But I didn't do the job on my own. You know, I didn't. My self-worth, or like the understanding of self-worth, was so fragile. So that's all like, it's just fascinating how like the color of my hair that has been changing drastically changed me, because my self-worth was so fragile in the way I saw myself, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it changed you in the beginning, I understand, for the worse because you were fearing, but that also has created a lot of now self-confidence, I understand.
I think it's a process for sure. And when I also like wrote an article, I was thinking, wait, but like, what am I trying? Like, what is the message that I'm trying to convey? And because what we used to, and also like our mainstream media in Hollywood movies that we see, like we see the process, and then we always see the good end, like, oh, and this is what happens. But my article was without any end. It's just
Yeah.
like, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And for me, it was so important to share that, because I knew that there's so many people who would be going to the same things, and it was for me and also for others. But going back to that I started thinking more, I started talking more, I started writing more, I started being more on my own as well, and asking just more questions. And now I feel that I do feel way more confident. I do feel, just the fact that I'm not crying when I'm talking about that already shows that I've been through quite a bit. And and yeah, it has given me a lot of power, especially in the last month, I would say, when I started talking to people about that, not only to my family members, but again, people who are going through different things. It doesn't have to be gray hair, but just the same probably topic about your self-worth in a way.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, and opening is really important. Like I remember once I put on my Instagram a few stories about yeah, my own yeah, mental health, because I go to therapy and I even take medicines. I take homeopathic medicines in
Uh-huh.
order to kind of mild down. Sometimes I feel some anxiety or depression.
Okay.
But I also noticed that I also get it less right now. But anyhow, I was like, this is big. This is, I thought I was like broken. and I'm not. I've been more authentic with myself, and that has mild kind of down the symptoms. I've been taking the medicines, but I felt, some part of me felt ashamed that I was taking those medicines. So I was like, no, why? There is a lot of people that's feeling like me. So I put on the camera and I was like, oh yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I take this and I feel ashamed, but I know that there is so many people that also feel ashamed. And I had so many reactions. I was so
Well,
crazy. And just to say, like, it's okay if you're going through this as well, it's okay. And the thing is that we want to look perfect. We want to
yeah.
look like, oh yeah, I'm all well put, oh yeah, I have this self-development channel and all is good. That's not true.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I write this article, or anything that you do. That's also part of the identification with the ego that I was talking also earlier on, that we want to be just perfect. But I think it
Yeah.
is important to live beyond the ego. And in order to live beyond the ego, you have to go beyond your insecurities.
Oh, and you need to make friends with your insecurities in a way. What I've noticed actually, and that's actually such a beautiful approach. Um, that again, I think the things that we use, the things that we consume as well. There's like nothing about vulnerability, nothing about your own insecurities. And talking about that, it's like about not being perfect, not being where you want to be, like long term, but where you are right now. So I think it's so hard to talk about presence, but that's something that I think it is way more powerful than anything else in the world. And if you can talk about something that you're going through now, how can you overcome that, so yeah, talking about also ego and again, like your self-identity. I grew up in Lithuania, and I was like one of like the most popular girls at school, and everything I was like doing, I was like super active, but not really asked the question like why I was so active. Probably because like I needed some kind of like confirmation from people too. Also, I really love doing stuff too. So there are like two kind of like parts of that. But I was seen as always like pretty. I was like always getting a lot of compliments, and I had like mirrors everywhere, like anywhere I would live. I would just, the first thing I would like buy is like a mirror. And the the recent thing I did was to me like transformative. I had this like big ass mirror at home, and I look at myself and I was like, I don't want to see myself all the time. And I just flipped it around. So this, this
Wow.
super simple like act that I did, I was like, it just, I it's super interesting, but I got way more clarity. I don't need to see the reflection of myself all the time at home. Just don't need to do that. I don't need to know how like my feet look, how my legs look, if the thighs are like not thin, not like whatever enough. And I feel way just, it's just such a liberating feeling, such a liberating feeling.
It's
So that's like just an experiment that I did super randomly.
Wow. Is it because now you are more focused on your inner side, also due to what happens with your hair, that you're more focused on like, okay, I'm more beyond my body, beyond how I look and
Oh,
material stuff.
mm, absolutely, yes. I think that is my focus, and I want for it to also stay this way as well. But I think like the task that I'm doing now is just to detach from my visual look so much that it wouldn't trigger me. I wouldn't seek the dopamine that confirmation validation kind of like adds to me. And even like seeing the reflection of myself in the mirror that sometimes like, sometimes don't like, sometimes it feels like, oh, you're so tall, skinny, la la, all kind of stuff. I don't need to tell it to myself. Like I want to feel comfortable in just the way I am. Like waking up in the morning, I don't need to rush to the toilet to kind of like brush my hair, do all that kind of stuff. So just to understand that, yeah, you weigh more than looks. You're so
Wow.
much more than looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did it come, do you think 100% because of the hair situation, or is there more
I
to this
think
whole
just
process?
think this year has just been so transformative, and probably the color of the gray hair has been a big thing for me. But also um, Corona as well. Like just I think there's beauty in stillness, and the stillness that I had, the quiet moments that I had with myself, really showed me more like the direction where I want to go to. So then I started building my own community very organically, very similarly to also your YouTube channel, like not being perfect, fact not being the fittest or best trainer in the city, but I was like, oh, but I can. I said I think I can do that, and it was like a very beautiful organic growth in that community that I kind of like started building. So, and then I probably like when I started doing that, I was like, oh, like the idea can come into reality very quickly if you just act on it. So I was like, oh, what if, what if I do this and what if I do that? So also writing an article, I was like, I always wanted to write as well. And when I did that too, I was like, oh wow, you can just publish it and people can read it. So probably
Mind
this year.
blowing, isn't it? Like,
Oh,
what?
like what?
Yeah.
Before that, I was very busy, just like hanging out with people and going to like fashion events and shit. No, so probably like this year has been like a realization, a lot of realizations in general, but the biggest one is that uh, I'm more than looks. I'm actually not the looks. It's not the looks that I am. I'm not the looks at all. So I'm not
No.
more. I'm not the looks. I think,
Lovely.
yeah. So yeah.
That's a great approach. And I think for now we're going to leave this conversation here because we're going to come with a part two.
Oh,
Yes, we're going to come with a part two. And we're going to talk just like, because you said something that triggered me right now about the COVID-19 and what happens when you're in silence. And then you start digging into what we're talking purpose and some projects that you're working on right now. So I want to talk about that in the second part. All right. So thank you very much.
Sure.
And see you next time. Bye.
Ciao.